Hello again, beautiful world. It's us, Slayer and Centauri Green. And today we want to talk about becoming energy maestros because we've been together 28 years now. And I have to say, we've gone on quite a journey about learning to understand energy and how it works. Because I think when we first met in 1996 and maybe the couple of years thereafter, it was tricky for me. I don't know about for you, but it was tricky for me,
Yeah.
energy. It was like, I would go down shopping and I'd come back and I'd feel sick and like I just couldn't take the energy of things and certainly of chaos and
I would
crazy.
say that at that time we were very energy sensitive people, stroke beings,
Yes.
who would be able to really sense things.
Yeah.
Like if someone was talking with force, with anger, etc., it would be like something pushes you back.
Yes.
And I quite remember that when we talked about the source of frustration, we decided that what we would do if either of us got angry, we would retire to different rooms for 10 minutes, allow things to simmer down, and then come back and talk about what had happened
Yeah.
in a clear space. So it was about being able to negotiate what we were feeling as energy sensitive people
Yes.
and to be able to come to an agreement about what would take place should we find ourselves in situations where we would both be uncomfortable, or one of us would at least be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that sort of like set a template, I remember, for future negotiations
Yeah.
about how we would live together.
Yes. I remember that too. But I also remember being an energy sensitive like that, it let me understand that people who were called empaths or energy sensitives actually had a key to the creation of the future. They had an energetic sensing, a sensory intelligence. But most of them at the time, this was 28 years ago, were using it like taking on other people's emotions or taking on the energy of the world. And then it would take them down usually, or they might use it to help them, like as a healer or whatever, to take the energy through, but then it would still have an effect on them. And when I realized that they had the key to everything, that this sensory intelligence could be elevated and evolved and taken to a new level of energetic mastery, that's when I really got on the game about understanding energy. And I would say, looking back now, 28 years later, that as a sensitive, or my energy, I'll just talk about me, my energy field was wonky, wobbly at the time. It was like, it was like a chick just out of the egg, like, like this. And there was a trying to be open at the same time. So the energies would like, wah, knock me back because I was wobbly and open. And what happened over the years is the energetics of me now are like, I am the universe, I can become source, I can become earth, I can become whatever. So my energy field is vast, expansive, full, rich, wonderful, transcendent, transformative even. And so even now, if something like came at me, like somebody yelled at me, let's say, there wouldn't be a response in me in like the normal, how somebody's yelling at me, what have I done or whatever. For me, my response would be like, I'm with you. What is occurring here? And what is mine to do with this? Is it mine to transform? Is it mine to listen? Is it mine to just let it be? Is it mine to seek a greater purpose? Is this person one of the players in the greater game and that's my role and I can assist them in taking the next step if they're willing. You see what I mean? So I have different response options now than I did 28 years ago.
I do recall that we were trying to find ourselves in a clear space where we wouldn't be overwhelmed by other things that are happening around us,
Yeah.
let alone trying to personalize an experience and say, oh, that, someone has done something to me. I think that sense of awareness had to negotiate uh, for quite some time how to be sensitive and yet not allow that level of sensitivity to be overwhelmed by everything else that goes on around it.
Yeah.
And so it was like having to expand your sense of self, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
until it became bigger than anything that might intrude upon it.
Yeah.
And I think at that stage, it was like, well, we are no longer, human beings. We're something different
Yeah.
than people have allowed themselves to be.
Yeah.
And I think at one time would have said, yes, we touched God, and then had a thought and came back to ourselves. But that was just like, again, moving that sense of awareness into a different space.
Yes.
And when I say a different space, I don't mean a physical space, a geographic space, and it's a different energetic
Yeah.
construct, if you like, in which you can claim yourself, as you said, to be the whole world, to be the whole universe. Might say they're playing with concepts, and yet by just moving your conscious awareness to expand it and say that everything around me, I am that. I am that. I'm not at odds with any of it. Therefore, there is nothing that can upset me or imbalance me in any way whatsoever. And I think we played around with those ideas so that we would become familiar with being able to tell other people how this can be done for themselves, that they almost like have a sense of who they are and how they're being. And we'd ask them questions and they'd say that, well, their energy space is only just a few inches from their body, from their physical body.
Yeah.
And then to be able to introduce the idea that that can be expanded further and further and further
Yeah.
until you suddenly realize that there's nothing that can overwhelm you. There's nothing that can hurt you per se
Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah.
There's nothing in which you yourself would find that you are lost. You can never be lost when you're being so expansive.
Yeah.
But what you do lose is that sense of a small personal identity, which
Yes.
feels that it is at the whim of everything around it, people, places, events in the world. And it's almost like getting to see that none of that is of any significance whatsoever.
Yeah.
You're here for something greater than that.
Yes.
And then it sets you off on this journey of finding out, well, you have no edges and there's no apparent limit into what you can conceive to be possible.
Yeah.
And it is a very interesting um, contrast between who we were 28 years ago
Oh my
and who
gosh.
we
Yeah.
can claim ourselves to be now.
Yeah.
And it is a progression. It has been a progression, not
Yeah.
an instant, oh, now we've become this.
Yeah.
It is just like I say, familiarizing yourself with the possibility that there is something more in which you can now change, transform, and evolve yourself into becoming. And it is for a purpose that perhaps at that moment you don't perceive, you don't understand, or are aware of. And yet, in the fullness of time, you suddenly start to get understandings, impressions, inklings which tell you this is now what you're at work upon.
Yeah.
This is now who you are becoming. And it's not something you, as you say, you have to hold on to. I have become this, so now I am this. It is forever changing. And
It
of
is.
course, then you must allow that change to take place in
Yeah.
whatever way it will.
And let me just say a couple of things. So one of them is, I think that years ago we thought that in order to have any kind of mastery, you kind of go up and out. But I think what we've learned is that it's be here, be right here physically loving being in a body and expand out. So in all directions. So your beingness, your consciousness, your awareness is physically present right here, not out there somewhere. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I think I've so understood in the last years how interwoven we are to everything. And because we're interwoven to everything, like people call it quantum entanglement, I suppose, but everything is interwoven like that. If you can become a pulse point of that, of power, a power surge, an elevational, vibrational frequency burst, up leveling of consciousness, etc. If you can be a point in the interwovenness of us all, you can affect everyone and everything in that way. So you just have to kind of, so you expand, become fully present, but as an expansive being, and then you become a now chemical pulse point. And you know that this expanded field contains everything and everyone, and that pulse that you're giving it is transmitting to everyone and making it available to everyone. It's not forcing anyone to anything, it's making it available to everyone. And it changes the dynamics of the whole field in which we all occur.
Hmm. I would just go back to something you said a moment ago. When people talk about being in a physical body, and I've heard this on a few occasions. Oh, you're in a third dimensional physical body. It's great about what you're talking about, so big and so vast and expensive, but dot, 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 dot. To which we have, of course, said, that's only a thought and a concept.
Yeah.
You just believed that you're a third dimensional being living in a physical form that has certain constrictions, restrictions, limits, and boundaries are placed upon it, whereas it is only what you yourself have placed upon it, or
Yes.
what society in it at large has said is so.
Yeah.
But you've got to go beyond those thoughts and ideas and see this as a marvelous construction, which perhaps doesn't have any dimensions in the way that you consider it to have dimensions. It
Yeah.
is maybe multidimensional. It maybe is omniversal. Who knows what it can be?
Yeah.
You are the determiner of it. You are the source point of it. As
Yeah.
you say, you are the pulse point
Yeah.
of what you are in this moment.
Yeah.
And what you consider to be true is what you are living. So
Absolutely.
therefore, we say throw away the ideas and concepts.
And
Treat yourself as new, newly emerging, newly born, newly arriving, newly.
in a miraculous physical body, which has energetic capacity beyond your wildest imagining. I think that's a good way to end this one, isn't it?
Sounds like another podcast coming up.
Okay, once again, thank you for watching. And Centaur and I are pulsing you all some great, wonderful energy, vibration, consciousness, etc.
Did
for
you
a
get it?
fabulous day. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
See you in the
Bye.
next one.